Hey, welcome to T4 Adventures. So today's episode we are installing some rock lights and some other lights. So stick around and check out all these accessories and how we're wiring all up. Okay, I'm going to try to explain this as best I can without trying to confuse you. I'm trying to simplify this. I want to show you exactly what you need to do to install your lights and your rocker switches. So these are going to be double lit rocker switches, and you don't want to direct access the battery for the power to these things. You want to tie into an accessory line like the 12-volt outlet or the ignition switch. So we are tying into the 12-volt outlet because I know that is on the ignition, so that way when we turn on the ignition, our lights will come on to our rocker switches, and then once we turn the rocker switch on for whatever item we have to light up or turn on, then that light will come on. Otherwise, if you directly wire it to the battery, it's just going to be on all the time. There's nothing breaking that circuit. So that's why you want to go to the ignition, anything that runs off the ignition. All right, here we go. So first off, we have our 32-inch light bar. So all these items I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to leave a link in the description box. So if you want to, do these projects yourself, purchase these items, then that'll be there, including these brackets. I'll show you a close-up of the brackets, and then links for everything here, including the wiring. So I'm using 14 gauge. I got a 50-foot spool of black, 50-foot spool of red. All right, so first up is our 32-inch light bar. So what I'm calling that is my Squatch lights, Sasquatch lights. So there's my toggle switch. All right, so I've already got that wired in, and we're going to show you exactly how to put these toggle switches in and how to wire it up to your item and then your power, because we're going to be wiring several things today. And we got one more spot here, but we need two more spots for toggle switches, and I'll show you in a minute. With this 3D printed item here. All right, back to the Sasquatch light. So first you have to determine where you want your light bar at. This is exactly where I wanted it. I wanted it right underneath the lip of this roof. I didn't want to go on top and go through the roof. I wanted to stay underneath. That's why I got these brackets that I have. So once you determine where you want your light bar, then you got to determine how you're going to mount it. So this bar underneath, right here, part of the frame, this clamp goes over it. Our roosters are going to start talking to us. So you get your clamps on loosely on both ends, attach it on here, tighten that down, the other side down. Now you put it into place and you start tightening these down with the Allen wrenches that they give you. And then what I did at the very last was I drilled a small pilot hole through the bracket into the pipe, through the railing, and I put in a self-tapping metal screw. That just keeps it from shifting around at all. Because before I didn't have that, and it was kind of heavy bumps, it would start sagging. So that keeps that from doing that. Now that you get your wiring harness, so I chose to have all my wiring come over here to the passenger side of the vehicle. So it just runs up here, and it runs into this plastic sheathing that I got from Walmart. You can get a bag for like 6 foot for $3 or something. I just bought like 3 or 4 bags. And then I just zip tied it around the rail. This is the outside right rail here. It just goes down here. And I have it coming down here. It's going to be underneath this access panel. And just run your wires to there. Now then, on these rocker switches, this is going to be my Jurassic lights. These are going to be green accent lights. They're going to be around in the cab. So on the back here, this is a 2-lidded rocker switch. So this, when you turn the key on, this will light up. Jurassic lights. This will stay off. Once you turn it on, this will now light up. So what that means is on the back, you're going to have 2 positives and 2 negatives because you have 2 power sources. You have 2 lights, and plus you have one going to your item, which is going to be our lights. So not all these rocker switches come with these little wiring harnesses. Here's the back of these other rocker switches. So if they don't come, if your rocker switch doesn't come with these wiring harnesses, this makes it so much easier, a lot less work that you have to do cutting and crimping. You can order, if your rocker switch doesn't come with it, you can order a bag of them like this. And again, I'm going to leave a link in the description for all these parts. Just to make it easier on you, I've done all the research, checking around and figuring out and all that good stuff. All right, so what we got to do, you got 2 negatives, 2 positives. We got the positive needs to go to a power source. And when you go to the power source, we want to go to something that's running off of the ignition. Remember, because if you don't, that light's going to stay on, whether this is on or off, and then your battery's going to go dead. You don't want that. Now, you can run the power off of the ignition, or you can do what I did and run it off of the 12-volt outlet. Okay, because this is wired into the ignition. So on the back side of this ignition, you have a negative post and a positive post. So let me just tell you briefly, real quick, what I did to begin with is I had 2 lights already ran. I had this Sasquatch light. I had 3 of these lights here. I'm calling my zombie lights. And my winch. So I already had all those 3 items wired in. So what I did was I tied into the .12-volt outlet, which is right there. So I took the positive post off. I wired on 3 wires, and I had them splitting off to the sides, running that to my switches, and then that's how I was powering it. The bad thing is when you do that way is you don't have any fuses. You could add an inline fuse, but if you're going to be doing multiple light sources, multiple accessories, then you might want to go to what I'm doing, which is a kind of electrical bus. So it has the fuses, it has everything you need, and then the cover plate. Show you, I got stuff everywhere here. So the cover plate looks like this, and there's a lot of stickers. You got a bunch of stickers, and you can label each one so you know which fuse is for what. So that's going to be my Squatch light, that's going to be my zombie lights, and then obviously that's my winch. Now I'm going to have 3 or 4 more going in. So that is why I chose to do a fuse panel box. So that is for a marine, like boat installation, but you can also use it for anything, vehicles or side-by-side, UTVs, whatever. All right, so now then, trying to keep it simple, let me show you how we wired in this. So this is going to be designated for everything to turn on with the ignition. Nothing is going to be able to turn on while the key is off. So we want all of our accessories to be able to turn on when you turn the key on. So I designated my very first positive post right here. That goes to my Sasquatch light. That is for my main power. The other positive post coming out of your rocker switch for our Sasquatch light, plane flying over, is going to go to your light. All right, that's going to go to your light bar. So you got one positive going in to your rocker switch. The other positive is coming out to your power source. So, and this is designated for my power source. So you also have two negatives. One negative is going to your light. The other negative is going to, you can either do here, like here's a junction, negative junction right here. This is where I had them all before. But now I'm using this, so I just put it right here. This is the designated spot for the first positive post. And then I went with a 15 amp fuse because this is a pretty big LED light bar. At first I ran a 10 amp fuse when I had all this wired before this, and it popped the main fuse, which is underneath this panel, and it was just a 10 amp fuse. So I just replaced that 10 amp fuse with a 15 amp fuse, and then I was able to run everything all at the same time. Now then, since we're going to have 3 or 4 more items going in here, I want to replace that fuse that goes to the 12 volt outlet. I'm probably going to replace that to a 30 or a 40 amp fuse, because if I'm running everything like at nighttime, if I have all my lights going, then I want sufficient power going to all of them. If you have it too small a fuse, it's just going to pop the fuse. But as long as you're running 14 to 16 gauge wire, which is what I'm doing, then it can handle all that voltage, all that power. So the main fuse box, the main power, I tapped into the power going into the 12 volt outlet, and that goes to my fuse box. The negative, I just went from here and just tied into that negative gain post right here. And that's it. Now this is wired, and now you complete your circuits with whatever accessories you want. So item number 2 was zombie lights. Okay, so same thing, rocker switch. You want to run your wires, kind of hide them behind things. Now I'm going to show you how you take the hood off. Okay, you got to take the hood off. These hood panels, those come off. There's 4 bolts, 2 for each one. Actually 3 for each one. And then there's these little push pins. So that pushes in, that clamps in, and that's what holds these plastic pieces to other plastic pieces and or brackets. So it's easier to do all this when you take all that off. Okay, now then. So what I did was these zombie lights, I wanted to be able to light up the side, each side of the side-by-side. And I also wanted one in the back. This is really handy if you're doing some work at night. You're able to really light things up out here with these 3 lights. These 3 lights are pretty awesome. So they have they come out to the side here. They have a high beam, like a spotlight type, and then they have like just an ambient glow out here. So it's like 2 in 1 in these lights. All right, so once you determine where you're going to put them, this is just a bracket that comes with the light. I just self-tapping screw right into the post, right into the frame here. ran the wires. All right, so I had to run the positive and connect it to the positive of this light, and then also the negative. So now this positive and negative comes down to 1, and it goes over there and hooks up to that light, and then it runs down through there, and just like the other Sasquatch light, one goes to your rocker switch power, and then one negative goes to your rocker switch, and then positive to your power, and then a negative to your fuse box. So this back one, if you're doing a Kawasaki Teryx like mine here, this is a 2023, I had a hard time finding a place for this to mount. If I mounted it to the thing, you can see how that would be really flimsy. This is a piece of 3/4 inch conduit metal bar, metal pipe, and I just tapped in, drilled a hole through the end, drilled a hole through this bracket. This bracket was already here, attaches the roof to the frame, and I just did a bolt, nuts, whatever. Same thing over here. I painted this thing black before I mounted it. Now I'm able to mount this light, and it's nice and sturdy, and it kind of blends in. You can't really tell that it's been redneck rigged. Okay, I hope I haven't lost you so far. Just take your time when you do this, and just really think about how you're completing your circuits, and just make sure that you power all these through an accessory line. That means once the ignition is turned on, then it powers all your accessories. Because if you're going to do these double lit rocker switches, those lights will stay on all the time and your battery will go dead. Now, if you don't want a double lit rocker switch, you can just get a regular old toggle switch. And then you don't have to worry about doing that. You can just go directly to the battery if you want, put an inline fuse, or just do this fuse box. I kind of like the double lit rocker switches. It's kind of cool. And you're able to read things at night with it. So it's just really neat to have it like that. All right, so I'm going to show you what else I'm going to be installing today, and then I'll show you how I'm running my wires using zip ties to get things out of the way, free of any kind of moving mechanical items, steering columns, anything like that, and keeping things away from hot items, exhaust, stuff like that. So let me show you the other two or three lights. I can't remember. I got so much stuff going on today. I can't remember how many I'm doing. All right, let's take a look. All right, so these two lights, these are very similar to my zombie lights that are up around there. They're a little bit different. They don't have that side spotlight thing here, but these light up green and green only. So I like to do stealth camping. I do it with, I have a receiver hitch, hammock receiver hitch, and a Haven XL that I hang, and I like to drive into places and camp overnight, go in at dark, come out, before the light comes up. So these lights will allow me to get in unseen with the green lights. And then also I'm going to have rocker lights. If you're not familiar with rocker lights or rock lights, basically you just mount the lights under each wheel well, and it just lights up that area. So when you're trying to navigate rocks or logs or anything, you're able to see what's going on, and it gives it a real nice look at night. So here is all of this, and here's my toggle switch for that. Just says rock lights, and we're going to be installing those. Some of the tools you're going to need, these connect to wires together, and you just use your lighter or small torch, and it just melts and fuses them together. And there's different diameters here. Also, you're going to need some of these. You can get these types at Walmart, local auto parts store. These I ordered on Amazon. Again, I'll leave a link. So now what I got to do, I want to I want to wire in these lights. All right, I've already got them mounted, and I use those same mounting brackets as I used for the Sasquatch lights. So I have those mounted. And what's cool about these mounts is this can flip this way or that way, so you can get an installation like this or parallel installation. So it's pretty versatile what you can do with these brackets. All right, so we got these mounted up. Now all we got to do is just wire them in. We got our 14 gauge wire. We're gonna connect onto these, run along this framework, and tuck under the way of the suspension and get it to run to our rocker switch and then to our fuse panel. Okay, so I'm running a positive wire for the, I'm calling it night vision lights. That's the two green ones on the front. So I'll do, I just have my spool down here, just run it through the dash panel and then up through here, feed it through the firewall, and then I just fished it down that way. But if you come over to this side, we have the steering column. We have the steering column there and that knuckle that's going to be moving. So we're going to move this over to the other side, and then we will wire these two lights together. So this wire will come over here, attached to this one. So these will attach together along with our 14 gauge wire that we're going to run, our positive and negative, and then we're going to run these this way along here and zip tie along the frame and then up through there. That way we're avoiding moving parts. Okay, so we got our positive and negative wire running from the switch compartment down through here. So we have both lights, positive and negative, all kind of basically soldered together here. So both lights are hooked into these single source wires here. So now we're just going to just get our zip ties and zip tie them to kind of the back side of this, and then down that rail, and then once we get tied off to here, we'll pull that tight and zip tie anywhere we need to, maybe with some of those other wires or whatever. All right, so now we want to temporarily snap this panel piece back in so we can cut out our spot here for our toggle switch. And we're just going to use a razor blade knife box cutter. So we're just going to push through there, 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 and then flip it out. There we go. Okay, we got our night vision rocker switch. That's going to be for the green lights on the front bumper. For the fuse box purpose, we're going to call them fog lights. And that's going to be this one here. So those are low voltage, wattage, whatever. So we're just doing a 10 amp fuse right there. So once you get to the fourth positive post here, you only have 3 negative there. So you start going with here and then out. All right, so that circuit is complete. Let's turn our ignition on. So that little light is not lit up, so it means we got a complete circuit. Let's see, we have the light is on there. Let's see. Can't tell. Okay, now this one should light up. So that one lit up. Let's see if our lights are on. And there they are. Our night vision green stealth camping lights. Very cool. So we just zip tied around this bracket, and then when they meet together right here, you could use that plastic sheathing. I still may come back later and do that. It'll just give it a cleaner look. I just ran out and I didn't feel like going to Walmart and getting some more. So for now, I'm just gonna do this, but I think in the future I may do that. And then just zip tied along the bar, right up through there, up to the firewall. All right, so now then we have all toggle spaces used up there. This big center one is for a radio. I'm not much of a radio person, so I don't think I'll ever put a radio in there. That'll just be there till find something else to do with it. So now then we are out of rocker switch places. So now then we have these little cubby holes. So on the Kawasaki Teryx, there's one over here, one there, and then you have one right here. They are pretty handy, but I have noticed I really don't use them. So that's just kind of an empty space. So in comes this 3D printed rocker switch. You can add 5 more rocker switch to this, and this fits to that goes on to the that little storage spot. So it goes like that. And you just screw them in. It came with screws, and now you've got 5 more rocker switch places. So all we'll have to do is drill a hole through the backside of the firewall through here, so we can get our wires through here to connect to our rocker switches. So I think I'm going to drill the hole right here. That's going to go in behind this panel and kind of go in line with all these other wires from these switches. And it's the area most protected from air and water. So I guess we're going to drill our hole right there. All right, we're back. We are running out of daylight, man. This is taking some time. So my rock lights under the front wheel wells, I tapped into this square metal tube on both sides, so that should light up this whole wheel well pretty good. And then I ran the wire over across that way. All the wires that connect to that little box is over there. So let me show you in the back. Same thing, so we attached to this round metal pipe. So we just drilled little holes, pilot holes, and then self-tapping metal screws. Ran the wire back there, zip tied down there, and then we used these things. So I just put some electrical tape on the end of the wire, and I ran it up underneath the skid plate all the way up to the front. Same thing over here, and I had to run this one over because the exhaust system goes that way, so I cut it over here and it meets up with this one down there and runs all the way up to the front. And there's our box. So 4 tapping self-tapping metal screws. This is a metal plate right here. This is also where I put the solenoid for the winch. All the excess wire for the rock lights. I wound them up, zip tied them. I haven't finished this yet because I wanted to test everything, make sure everything was working before I electrical tape this and then zip tie it up out of the way. So that'll be zip tied up out of the way like that. So my rock light switch that I got for this wasn't the right kind of switch. So I kind of debated about using the Jurassic light for my rock lights, and that's what I did. It was the right type. I was saving this one for my green interior lights, but I also have a rocker switch that says interior light, and I think I will use that. So here is our 3D printed rocker switch. Goes into there. So now I know that everything works. We're gonna screw in the screws, snap in the rocker switch. Mosquitoes are coming out. And then we're gonna snap this dash back into place. All right, so we got this screwed in. It's pretty nice. You can get the one that's for this side or one for the right side. I chose to put it here. It's close to the driver for all the switches. So there's our, for our rock lights, Jurassic lights. Turn the key on. So all the names light up. The only one that doesn't is the winch. It doesn't light up. So Jurassic lights. There we go. And now I just have to download the app and I can control the rock lights with the app. All right. So now let's turn those off. Let's check out our night vision. That was our green lights on the front bumper for our stuff camping. Very cool. So this fuse box is working out great. Very cool. So I didn't mount this to anything. It's gonna fit. I'm just gonna tuck it in under here and it'll fit right behind and under this, up out of the way. So I did put the cover on. I got 10 amp fuses for everything except for our squatch lights. I put a 15 amp fuse on there because it's such a bigger light. It takes a little bit more power. And there we go.